The 2K Showcase mode in WWE games has been around since WWE 13 with the Attitude Era mode, but after the amazing 2K16 Stone Cold Steve Austin Showcase, the mode would disappear in the following year. Kind of. Because while 2K17 doesn't have an official 2K Showcase, if you bought the Season Pass or this specific pack, you would get the 2K17 Hall of Fame Showcase. This showcase mode highlights most of the 2016 Hall of Fame class, featuring some legendary matches, I guess you could say, for 5 of the Hall of Fame's inductees. There is also a Hall of Fame showcase for 2K16, which was the year that we got that Stone Cold showcase. However, I unfortunately did not purchase that DLC, so I've never played the 2016 Hall of Fame showcase. If you have that on Xbox, feel free to hit me up on Twitter, link in the description. But this DLC for 2K17 was $9.99, and this was my first game on next gen. So when the time came and I was able to beg my mom for a couple of DLC packs, I ended up getting the NXT pack because I loved Shinsuke Nakamura, I got the Future Stars pack because I loved Ty Dillinger, and I got the Hall of Fame Showcase not because I had a particular attachment to any of the Hall of Famers, but because I loved the showcase modes. So today we will go over the 2016 Hall of Fame as they are showcased in WWE 2K17. But before we get into what makes this showcase special, we will start with some disappointing features in this showcase, or lack thereof, because in past years we got the video replays and the cinematic replays. You could replay each of the video packages between the matches, and you could go through the cinematic replays to play through those cutscenes without having to play each individual match over again. Those both, however, are not features here, and there are still some nicely assembled video packages, but there's really nothing unique about this showcase, and it feels like they pulled out a lot of features rather than putting more in. For the objectives of the showcase, there's nothing too tedious, and each match is pretty fine, mostly full of damage your opponent for however much, and in most matches you only have 1 or 2 cutscenes, nothing really overboard. We'll get into the match list in just a second, but a note that I had is that these subtitles are so obnoxious because instead of just having the words on the screen, you have the words on the screen, but you also have this black box behind it that covers half of the screen during the cutscenes and the video packages, and that was very annoying. But on to the match list for WWE 2K17's Hall of Fame Showcase, and this isn't nearly as iconic as last year's showcase. We have 9 matches featuring 7 of the Hall of Fame's inductees, with the likes of Snoop Dogg, which is understandable, and Stan Hansen not making it into this DLC. The showcase begins with Sting taking on Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight Championship at Clash of the Champions 1988. And this will unlock you that surfer version of Sting from 1988, as well as Ric Flair with his longer hair, in the World Heavyweight Championship from that specific era, as well as the arena, obviously. The second match actually continues with that year's headliner, Sting, as you take on Bret Hart at Halloween Havoc 1998 for the US Championship. Here you unlock Wolfpack Sting as well as Bret Hart from WCW and the Halloween Havoc 1998 arena, but the US Championship is already in the game through VC Unlockables. The next 2 matches highlight the Fabulous Freebirds, starting with Buddy Roberts and Michael Hayes taking on the Von Erichs at World Class Championship Wrestling in 1986. This unlocks you only Kevin and Kerry Von Erich as well as the WCCW arena, but for the 4th match of the showcase, Michael Hayes teams up with Jimmy Jam Garvin at WCW Saturday Night in 1992, and you take on DDP and Cactus Jack, and you get your Freebird unlockables here with Michael Hayes, Buddy Roberts, and Jimmy Garvin, as well as DDP and Cactus Jack in these attires in the WCW Saturday Night 1992 arena. But the 5th match highlights Big Boss Man as he challenges the Big Show for his WWF Championship at Armageddon 1999, and you'll unlock Big Boss Man and the Big Show in their 99 attires, as well as the Armageddon arena, before going to SmackDown in 2000 for match number 6 as Jacqueline takes on Ivory for the Women's Championship. But the final match in the showcase doesn't highlight a specific past match, it is instead the Godfather versus Papa Shango at WrestleMania 32 in a quote-unquote dream match. So those are your 7 matches for the 2K17 showcase, a disappointingly low amount of matches because we didn't get a regular showcase within the game. I would have expected more from its DLC. However, I do understand this just being extra content, so you don't really want to go overboard with an entire DLC list. Some notes that I made throughout is that Armageddon 99 match, Albert is at ringside in Big Boss Man's corner, and this is how you get him into the game, as he is also a DLC character. And for that final dream match, you have Godfather waiting in the ring, the lights go out, and Papa Shango appears, giving us a little cutscene to kick off that match that I thought wouldn't really have any substance, just like Jacqueline versus Ivory didn't really have any substance. Because the match being featured is cool, the 2 stars making it in as DLC is cool. However, there are no cutscenes. This is a 2-minute match in real life. This is a match that I would have liked to see get more love, or if not this match specifically, Jacqueline in general with a more highlighted match, or even just creating something to make this a little more interesting. Instead, this match was just full of objectives before finishing and getting your unlockables. I also think it's kind of disappointing that we only got 7 matches instead of 8, because instead of Godfather versus Papa Shango, you could have had Godfather versus somebody and Papa Shango versus somebody to make this a little more special. And while this is a pretty underwhelming showcase, this is a pretty packed DLC pack. Because you have 9 character personas, you have 2 versions of Sting, you have Big Boss Man, Ric Flair, Bret Hart, DDP, Cactus Jack, and The Big Show, as well as Michael Hayes, who is a DLC character, all getting extra attires for this game. While also you have 7 new characters, being Michael Hayes, Jimmy Garvin, Buddy Roberts, Jacqueline, Ivory, The Godfather, and Papa Shango. Alongside all of that, you get 6 arenas, being Clash of the Champions, Halloween Havoc, WCCW, WCW Saturday Night, Armageddon 99, and SmackDown 2000. And alongside all of that, you get the World Heavyweight Championship from 1988 as well. So like I said, as a showcase, this is super underwhelming. But as a DLC pack, there is a lot of content packed into this, and I think it made for one of the best DLC packs within this year's version of the game. I talked about how we got rid of video and cinematic replay, making this showcase a whole lot less special, but it does have its own feature, which is replay mode. So after you finish a match and get all of the objectives, you unlock replay mode. And this is basically an exhibition match, so it's not really anything too special. I did play through the showcase on normal, but replay mode has its own difficulty, and I found that they kicked out a lot, and they inflicted a lot more damage than they would within the actual game. So replay mode is either on legendary mode or a different higher difficulty. I couldn't really crack the code, but there were a lot of kickouts and there was a lot of action between these matches that made them a little more fun than the showcase matches themselves, only they were minus objectives, because there are no objectives and no cutscenes for replay mode. However, you can choose whoever you want in the match, so basically, as I said, this is an exhibition match, but it kind of just sets everything up for you. And that's really the only extra feature within this short mode. So let me know if you remember this forgotten showcase mode within WWE 2K17, one that I remember fondly, and even replaying I did enjoy. But if you play this or go back to this in any way, shape, or form, I feel like if you want to look at it positively, you have to look at it more as DLC than a showcase within the game. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Let me know if there's any other story mode, whether it be a showcase or a my career in past WWE games, that you would like to see me cover on this channel down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.